Hi, this is Corrine Carpino, and today I'm going to paint a little autumn painting that I'm going to use for a greeting card. This is the reference photo from the Inspiration Gallery, and I've printed it in black and white. And I'm looking at this to see the value range, where are the darkest darks, the lightest lights, and where's my mid-ranges in value. And I'm going to use this just for reference. I'm not going to try to paint this painting exactly. I'm using a piece of narrow paper. I'll call out the inks as I use them. I have some blending solution in this little bottle and a variety of brushes and a key card and a little sponge in case I decide to use that. So I'm going to start by putting a little bit of the blending solution on the paper. And I'm going to start with sepia ink. I'm going to add some rust, a little bit of ginger, caramel, and a little bit of honeycomb, and a little sunset orange. These are all Ranger alcohol inks. I'm going to use a water brush. It has alcohol in the barrel, and add solution as I go. And just move these inks around and cover the back of the paper. I'm not tipping the paper because I do want to keep some separation in these ink colors. Now it looks very similar all together with my camera, but I do have darker inks in the top, which is what I want. As you remember, when we saw the reference photo, the value showed the darkest areas in the top. So now that I have this, I'm going to use my key card and just start to move these inks around. I'm just going to hold on to my paper, and I'm just going to continue to run this key card through. I'm trying to create the look of stems in the background and a little bit of light through the middle. And as long as the ink stays wet, I'll be able to move it. Now I'm coming in from the bottom and just putting some stems in for those flowers. Now the ink's going to continue to move back, so I can continue to do this until such time as the ink gets drier and I can't pull this credit card through. But we can already see I'm lightening up the bottom. Got some nice glow coming through there, which is what I want. And if my inks are too heavy in an area, I can just pull the ink right off of the paper. And I will do this until the inks get drier and I can't move it, and until I have stems that I like. Now I'm taking a pointed cotton swab. I make it for makeup. You could use a regular one if you don't have pointed ones. And I'm just tapping into the ink. The ink is still wet enough that it's moving back, but I'm creating what I'm going to call those, kind of ghosty flowers way in the background of that inspiration photo. As the Q-tip gets full of ink, I will just turn it over. I want to lift ink and not move it around. And it is coming out a little tight. But I've found that this is the best method because I don't want to lift too much of the ink. I'll just continue to dot around as if there's some of these dried flowers way, way, way in the background. Okay, I'm going to pull some stems in. Now I want to create that mid-range of flowers, and so now I actually have some blending solution on my Q-tip or cotton swab, and I'm just removing more of the ink. And so a couple areas I want it to be lighter. And I'll just continue to do this. And as I put that cotton swab down, I can start to twist it, which will lift even more ink off. So you can control how much ink you're pulling off by how much solution is on that cotton swab. And how hard you're twisting and how much ink you're taking off. So I'm starting now to have some flowers that are definitely in the mid-ground, and I will do 3 or 4 of those. And you can see I've sped up the video during this part because I'm just repetitively doing the same motion in order to lift the inks. So here I have 4 that are a bit lighter. So now I have some depth in here between the background flowers and the midground. I have my palette, which has my dried inks in it. And I'm going to use sepia. And some of these stems are a little bit lighter than what I want. So I'm going to take my liner brush. You can see I'm getting my ink nice and thick. I'm controlling how thick it is based on how wet my brush is. And I'm testing it to make sure that I can do thin lines. I'm just going to fill some of this in a little bit because they just got a little light when I was pulling that credit card through. I'm also going to add some stems to the flowers in the foreground or midground, and I'm doing that with teakwood, which is a little bit darker shade of brown. And I want them to stand out a little bit more because I'm building depth. And so I want these stems to come over the flowers in the background. So now I have 2 layers. And be a little bit darker. And I have nice thick ink so I can really control it and make nice straight lines. And the flowers in the background here, the way background, I'm using the sepia ink for the stems because I don't want them to really show up quite as much. And so I'm getting all of those stems in before I get my main stem of dried flowers in. So now I want to get that main stem in. I'm going to put it on the right-hand side where it was in the inspiration photo. And I'm going to use my liner brush and some, I'm going to use it wet. I know you can't see, but I'm testing that brush out to make sure there's not too much solution on there. And I'm just starting to come in and pull my stem up. So we're just getting the base of the stem in. And all I'm doing is pulling the solution through the ink that's on the paper. Now, when we do stems or tree branches, everything comes off like a Y. And so I'll just put all of these little branches in. And I'm doing this slowly as I'm pulling the ink back on purpose because I don't want to use too much pressure or too much solution and have this have these stems come out too wide. So I really want a lot of control here as I put these in. And just deciding where I want all of these stems to be. Now I'm pulling back down through just to make some areas a little bit lighter. A little stem here. Now that one got a little wide because there was too much solution on my brush. So I'll fix that later. I'll pull a little sepia ink back through that. And so now I have 4 little stems. And I think I'm going to end up, after I fix that, putting in another one. Okay, the light is coming from the left in this inspiration photo. And so I'm going to want to darken up the right-hand side of these stems. Again, testing my ink to make sure that I have enough control, that I can be able to do thin lines. And there we are. I can do pretty thin lines. And I'm just going to shade in, and this is pitch black, the right-hand side of the stems. And that starts to make that left side of that stem really pop in the lighter areas. And I'll do this on all of these. Now I could have used a Sharpie marker as well. Just darkening where the stems come together. And I've pulled this in so you can really see the glow that we're creating. We're going to add this other little stem. So there's 5. Just pulling that ink back. Now I'm adding a little bit of the black. That got a little thick, but I can come back in and just pull it back. And I'll add a little bit of that honeycomb ink in there just to get my colors back and create that glow. Now I'm going to test out how much alcohol is on my brush, because I want to make little dots of alcohol to make those bigger flowers. And I'm just looking to see how far is that ink moving. And I'm just going to start to dot in alcohol to create the flower. So now we're negative painting because we're just pushing the ink back. I'm going to continue, you'll see, to test as I go. I will get some spots that are large, and I'll show you how we'll deal with that. And just letting the ink move back. Now you'll also notice I'm moving that brush around. So if I start to put droplets right next to each other, they're just going to create a big, huge white area, and I don't want that. So this way I can maintain the droplets. Now, if we do get a spot that's too big, you can use the Tim Holtz ink blower or any other kind of similar tool that blows air, and you can dry them as you put them down. So that's one method that I'm showing you. And these flowers are much looser in the foreground. We really get to start to see them. And some of them I will actually put a lot more alcohol in. You can see I can just drop drops right inside of other drops and start to really create what looks like a bundle of dried flowers. Now some of these where I have the droplets, I'll put another drop inside of it to make them whiter. And the nice thing with the narrow paper is it does come right back to white. Again, testing my brush, making sure I don't have too much alcohol on there, and just dotting around. Okay, I'll show you another method to lift the ink. I can just put that dot of alcohol down and lift with a Q-tip. That's going to create a bigger area. And then I can put my little dots around here. So all my little dried flowers aren't the same size. Again, adding some additional solution inside some of those so everything's not the same color. I'm doing this slowly and watching how big those droplets are getting. I'll go back and forth between using the blower to dry ink. Now here I got a really big spot, but I'm just going to come back over it. You really can't make a mistake. Okay, I'm going to move on. I love the glow this is creating. And we're just going to continue to create these dried flowers. I don't want all of the circles to be the same size. Some are smaller, some are bigger. Some are darker, some are lighter, and that's what makes it look like it has some dimension instead of being totally flat. Okay, so I'm probably going to speed up this video while I continue, since I'm just doing repetitive action. Okay, and we'll just continue to negative paint, meaning using the paint that's on there. Now I got a really big spot, you can see. I dabbed at it with a piece of paper towel real quick. It's going to disappear as I get these flowers in here. And we're just going to have a lighter area in the flower, which is really okay in the end. So I'm just now drying these as I go, using the Q-tip. So both methods now to finish this up. Okay. Now I'm looking at the rest of the painting, and it is kind of tight compared to the flowers in the foreground. I'm going to try to break these up a little bit with a one of those pointed Q-tips with some alcohol on it. Just kind of tapping it through what's already there, especially for these lighter flowers in the midground. But I don't really want to go into them at this point and break them up, because I don't want them to end up like the ones on the top and be quite so white. So I'm going to be pretty happy with how it is right now. So I've looked at this and I've decided I want that stem. I could have left that stem the way it was. But I've decided I want to bring it all the way down into the front of the other flowers to really emphasize it's in the foreground. And so I'm going to get a damp brush and a little bit of butterscotch ink and my liner brush, check my lines, make sure that my ink is nice and dry and I can make the skinny lines. I'm just going to bring this line down. Now I could have left it, as I look at this, I could have left it as if it was coming out of that group of other flowers. But I like the emphasis of this big flower really being in front of all of the rest. I'm just going to very slowly keep pulling back down through, because I don't want this stem to get too wide. I'm testing my black, making sure that I can do a nice thin line with the black ink, and I'll just continue to put the shadow on the right-hand side the same way I did on the upper part of that stem. And I like that. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future videos with alcohol ink tips and techniques. Bye for now.